Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So let's really break this down properly, because what the New York Liberty did defensively against Caitlin Clark is not random. This is not just, oh, let's try something different. No, this is intentional, this is structured, and more importantly, this is something you are going to see over and over again. The New York Liberty full court pressed Caitlin Clark. From the very start, they picked her up 94 feet. Not half court, not three-quarter court, full court. Every possession, they made her work just to bring the ball up. They were blitzing screens, sending extra bodies, and constantly trying to force Caitlin Clark into uncomfortable spots on the floor. Now, if you visualize it, because I know I'm basically pulling out the imaginary whiteboard here, you've got Caitlin winging the ball up, and before she even crosses half court, there's already pressure. Then, as she approaches the action area, another defender shades over. And what they're doing is rotating guards on her. Fresh bodies, constant pressure, no rhythm. And here's the key thing. This is where people get it wrong. The goal is not to steal the ball. Yeah, if they get a steal, great. But that's not the primary objective. And it's also not just about tiring Caitlin Clark out. That's part of it, sure, don't get it twisted, it does wear on you. But that's not the core strategy either. The real objective is simple. Get the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. That's it. That's the entire defensive game plan. Because once Caitlin Clark has the ball, and once the Indiana Fever get into their primary action, everything changes. And that action, the one teams are terrified of, is the Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston two-player game. We're talking about the pick and roll going right. We're talking about the pitch handoff. We're talking about that downhill action where Caitlin Clark initiates and Aliyah Boston becomes the decision maker out of the short roll or pop. Now, here's why that's dangerous. Aliyah Boston is not just a post player anymore. She's developed enough of a jumper where she can fake the handoff, turn, and shoot. Around that 33% range from three, good enough that defenses have to respect it. And the moment defenses have to respect that shot, everything opens up. You can't hard hedge anymore because she'll slip it and shoot. You can't soft hedge either because she'll step into space and knock it down. And if you overcommit, she can put the ball on the floor and attack the basket. So now your traditional defensive coverages start breaking down. The entire structure collapses if you let that action develop cleanly. And then you add Kelsey Mitchell into the equation, because now you've got a weak side third option who is a legitimate 40% three-point shooter. So if help comes from her side, that's a problem. That's an immediate kick out, and that's a high-quality look. So think about it like this. If the Fever get into that set properly, you've got Caitlin Clark as the initiator, Aliyah Boston as the screener, secondary playmaker, Kelsey Mitchell spacing the floor as a lethal third option. That's not easy to guard. In fact, it's borderline unguardable when executed cleanly. So what do teams do? They don't let you get there. That's why the Liberty picked Caitlin Clark 94 feet. That's why they disrupted her before she even had a chance to initiate the offense. Because if you stop the entry point, you stop the action entirely. And to be fair, it worked, at least in stretches. Especially in the first half, you could see Indiana struggling to get into their rhythm. The timing was off, the spacing wasn't clean. And a big part of that is because Caitlin Clark wasn't operating from her preferred spots. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because this is not just about the defense. This is also about how Indiana responds to that pressure. Under Stephanie White, the approach is very clear. If Caitlin Clark is being pressured full court, she gives the ball up immediately. No hesitation, no fighting through it, no trying to dribble through double teams. The system says, move the ball. Trust the offense. But that creates a secondary issue. Because once Caitlin gives the ball up, she's not necessarily getting it back. And that's the difference compared to how things operated under Christie's sides. Before, if Caitlin gave up the ball, it was often a temporary release. The ball would come right back to her and they'd reset the action. Now, that's not guaranteed. Now, if Caitlin passes out of that pressure, the offense continues without her initiating again. And because of that, she ends up off the ball more than you'd ideally want. And here's the problem with that. If Caitlin Clark is off the ball, you have to use her gravity. You have to move her. You have to run actions that force defenders to react to her presence, because if she's just standing there, she's neutralized completely. And what we saw in this game is that Indiana's use of Caitlin Clark's gravity is heavily tied to Aliyah Boston being on the floor. When those two are paired, you see more purposeful movement, more structure. But outside of that, it gets inconsistent. So when New York applies that full court pressure and Caitlin gives the ball up and the offense doesn't flow back through her, it becomes easier to defend. And that's exactly what teams want. They're not saying we're going to stop Caitlin Clark completely. That's unrealistic. What they're saying is we're going to make sure she doesn't control the game. Because there's a difference. Now, some people might look at this and say, well, is this because of her handle? Is this because she's turning the ball over? No, not really. She didn't turn the ball over like that in this game. This isn't about weakness. This is about respect. Opposing coaches do not want the ball in Caitlin Clark's hands. Period. Because when she has the ball, and when the Fever get into their action, the defense is on its heels immediately. So the easiest solution? Force someone else to make decisions. And to Indiana's credit, they do have players who can do that. Kelsey Mitchell, for example, is one of the best in the league at creating her own shot. Honestly, one of the few players where a contested shot from her is still a good shot. That's how talented she is. But if you're a defense, you'll live with that. You'd rather Kelsey Mitchell take a tough jumper than deal with the Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston pick and roll. You'd rather Maisha Hines-Allen take a shot than let that primary action develop. Because that action, the downhill pick and roll to the right, the pitch, the decision-making chain, if they can get into that set properly, it's over. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. All it takes is one of those three to have a good night, and suddenly the entire offense becomes unstoppable. That's the ceiling of this team. But right now, teams are doing everything they can to keep them from reaching it. Because if you let Caitlin Clark casually walk the ball up the floor, call for a screen, and flow into that pick and roll, you're not stopping that. You're just hoping to survive it. And that's why the New York Liberty did what they did, and that's why everyone else is going to follow.
You had a lineup triple big with Stewie, Sue, and also JJ. Just looking towards the future. I mean, what could that lineup kind of possess moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we just want to take a look at it. I think obviously it gives us skill and shooting, so we can play a lot of different ways, and then we'd like the switchability defensively.
And then also, Nicira Pryor coming off the bench, had 4 steals in this game, had some nice defensive possessions, especially as a point of attack defender. What did you see from her today?
Yeah, I mean, there just comes a moment in everyone's career where you have to try to make a name for yourself. And this was her opportunity to go out there and, even though it's just a preseason game, show her ability. So I thought she played well, and I thought she brought us good energy.
Brianna, I mean, you talked about you're feeling healthy and good, but just what you were able to do at the beginning of the second quarter. I mean, can you talk about just how good you felt out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just settling in after the first quarter and really finding getting downhill. I felt like, whether it was inverted ball screen or, just a post-to-post one, the matchups got messed up and I was able to get whatever I wanted. And then transition threes are like the hardest thing to guard and being ready to pull it.
Hey, Chris, obviously Indiana was pretty, hell-bent on taking away corner threes, just not generally helping as much off the line. What kind of challenge or just, outline did that set for your offense today? Didn't take a lot of threes in the first half. How do you feel like the group responded to that?
In terms of schematically
in terms of the kind of the challenge, the unique, style of defense Indiana's playing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've obviously, some of them have been together a little bit and they have their brand of basketball. And I thought they were physical. They did a good job defensively. I think for us, we were just trying to really get into our stuff early, run 1, maybe 2 sets, just find a rhythm. We haven't been together long. And so I think it was important for us. As far as the 3-point attempts, it's one of those things where if we can get to the rim or we're getting to the foul line, we're okay with not taking a ton of threes. So, I'd have to look at it.
Stewie, for you, obviously you made those 2 threes. You know, you've talked a lot about your health and how you feel so much healthier. Can you take us through maybe how much that helps you be able to really hit those shots and not really feel rushed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just starts with having like a good base and foundation. So when I'm able to kind of really just load from like my toes all the way through, I just have the confidence in my shot, and really just kind of getting back into that rhythm from this entire off season with Unrivaled, and then my little short stint overseas, and excited to just be aggressive and take it when it's open.
And Han, for you, what did you think worked the best for you this afternoon?
I think I just try to play 100% for myself, and I try to execute what the coach said. But I still have some turnover or some bad moment, but also have a lot good moment for me. And this is the first game. I think this is a pre-season, and our player from anywhere, everybody just meets each other like 4 days. And for me, it's I think we good. Everybody try to play hard, and me also. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everybody, for Chris. Beck Gardner gave you guys a lot of really good minutes today, and she was able to initiate the offense a good amount. What stood out the most to you about Beck's play today?
Yeah, Beck's just really consistent. She's been consistent in this league, for a long time, and just her ability to make threes. She can handle the ball, and then defensively, just the effort. And honestly, like our whole team's effort was there. Obviously, like with the turnovers, we have to clean that up, and that's not exactly what we expected, but somewhat, right? It's like we've been together a few days, and but Beck definitely brings us some consistency and poise out there.
Hey Chris, congrats on your first preseason game. Just wanted to pivot towards the environment. First time with the Barclays Center really filled up like this. Just what were your takes from the crowd, and what are you looking forward to for next Friday?
Yeah, just a ton of energy, right? And they deserve a team that plays hard, and we're always going to be playing hard. And obviously, like the outcome today, the result wasn't there, but I loved our team's fight, and just the energy from the fan base is contagious. Like we can feel it.
So that was the press conference after the game. Like I told you about Caitlin, which is the Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston pick and roll pitch, whatever it is, going downhill to the right, because that is going to be unguardable once the Fever can get into that action, with shooters and Kelsey Mitchell as the best third option in the history of the WNBA in that specific role. That is the action they run time after time again in 2024. That is the action that they've run plenty of times. And if they can get that action, all it takes is one of Caitlin, Aliyah, or Kelsey to play well, and they're beating everybody. They're beating everybody as long as one of them plays well. Anything else, it relies on multiple people playing well, multiple layers. But there is a very, very, very clear thing that the Fever have, and it's the reason why they're trying to get the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. Because if teams let Caitlin Clark walk the ball up the floor, like they do with every other point guard, and walk into the pick and roll, it's over. It's over. Like, the Fever are putting up 130 a game. Tell me what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe.